we know. Again, if an organization has physical resources, fantastic physical resources, edifice and all that, and poor human resource or resources, it's a matter of time. That business will also collapse. So I would rather say that human resources pivotal to an excellent management of financial resources and physical resources. And for organizations to generate revenue, to sweat its assets and also make profit, definitely it will have to depend on the human resource. Again, every nation that wants to succeed will invest in its human resource, and it will invest very well in the human resource. So I'm just laying this as a foundation to pick the values of human resource as the third, and in no particular order, the best resource that you can think of in managing a business. I mean, I've seen businesses collapse, even bigger businesses that were too big to die. They died due to poor management of human resource. We've seen some cases like the one we have in the Barings Bank, where we have the monumental fraud of about $5 billion happening. And that tells us that human resource still remains the king of these three resources. So now we quickly want to talk about challenges with MSMEs, and I'm still going to hinge back on human capital challenges. We've so much concentrated on the funding challenge for MSMEs. You know, the truth, again, I have interacted with several MSMEs, and again, I've come to the conclusion that many times when they need funding, many of them do not really know the reason for even the funding. That's the truth. And what I mean by that is they ask for a certain amount of money that may be outrageous or may not even be applied appropriately. I'm talking about the misuse of funds. And let's even think about it. These funds are not really there. These funds are not really, really available. And it's very scarce. Though we have a lot of grants. I was reading a report, I think sometimes last week, about African Development Fund for MSMEs. And I discovered that in Kenya alone this year, they've been able to raise about 20,000 individuals or MSMEs for this fund. So I don't have the data for Nigeria, unfortunately. Another challenge we have with the MSMEs is the harsh economy. We all know that the micro and the macroeconomic components at this moment are definitely affecting businesses. If you're talking about the inflationary index, the CPI, you would know that it's really, really affecting the way businesses turn out their profits, meaning the cost of operations are going higher, and you have taxation challenges, you have liquidity challenges for so many of these businesses. Having access to Forex is a big challenge. So these are as a result of harsh economy. We also have regulatory challenges in a space where we do not have regulators that they're doing their supervisory work effectively. Now that takes us to the space of even the basis of so many regulations. There are no regulations per se within the MSME space that really, really protects them. But all these are just conversations outside our focus. But again, I just want to make a little touch points on that. But again, if you look at human capital challenges, there are so many human capital challenges being faced by MSMEs. So we'll be picking them up. But again, I want to draw our attention to the piece of MSMEs. That's talking about the products. That's the product the MSME is actually throwing out there for the consumers, for the markets, for the business, and the place, whether it's a physical location or a virtual location, as the case may be. We also have the policy with which the business is running. Many MSMEs, unfortunately, do not believe in putting policies and processes in place. Everything starts and ends with the business owner. The business owner believes that policies are made by him for him, for others, and by him. And policies are usually guide for sustainability of business. So these are some of the things we're looking at that businesses should put in place. The same thing to process. Process is just to ensure there is consistency, there is adoption of standards, and also it guides the way things are being done. We also talk about profitability, which deals with the financial aspect. MSMEs are in businesses to make profits. That is the truth. And this profit is what sustains the business. And again, when we're talking about profitability, there are so many elements built in that. Again, I don't want to go too much into that. The last but not the least is people. People are very, very pivotal, even in the way products are being designed, in the place where businesses are being carried out, in how policies are being effective and how processes are being efficient within a system. And again, how organizations make profits. So people are very, very pivotal to this. But what are the really touch points, the pain point of so many MSMEs? If you sit down with business owners, you have conversations with them, there are many times they're going to tell you some things that we all know. I want to assume that we all know some of these things, but the depth differs from one MSME to the other. One of the biggest challenge basically has to do with how to even source for people, for employees to work with them. I personally feel the pain of so many business owners in terms of getting the right hire. Again, many times people who come into MSME businesses to work with the MSME owners, the business owners, do not really show interest in the business. They show interest in what they can get out of the business for themselves. What the motivating factor could be salaries, the motivating factor could just be anything. But again, lots of people working with MSMEs, many of them are just not believing in the business, but much more interested in what comes to their pockets. Now, you may want to ask me this question: what informs that position? That position, if you read several literatures, you can see so many of this research being done, so many of these surveys being carried out, where if you ask people why they're working at their workplace, largely they will tell you it's because of the money they get. And this is quite disheartening. That's the more reason many times when the business owners, want to hire, they have to be very, very strategic about it. They need to know the kind of employees they want to work with, that wants to work with them. It's a game of interest this time around, ensuring that whoever is going to work with you as an MSME must have interest in your business, must understand your business, must be committed to the business, must show interest in how the business grows. That is very, very important. In one of the places where I've worked, is also an MSME, very small business. We're not more than 12 as at that time. I recall at a point where we were running into some, I'll call it into serious financial challenges. And that led us to even spending the shareholders' funds. So at the point, the MD had to say, hey, we need to find a way out of this. Then that led us to thinking outside the box. But again, I told the MD that time, I said, let's sample the interest of people. Let's do a pulse survey to really find out those that are on our side before we venture into this. Otherwise, we'll come back to zero level. And by the time pulse survey was done, the MD was really, really heartbroken to find out that a lot of people are actually working there without much interest in the business, but what they can get out of the business. We had to re-strategize anyway, and that led to culture change, that led to people change, that led to people transformation strategy. And I won't lie to you, so many people were laid off. That's the truth, to be replaced with people who are rather interested in the business. So how do you really source for people to work with you? You can adopt any of these 5 methods. First is direct sourcing, where you hire direct or you hunt directly. You get people to come and work for you based on several criteria that you have set as a business owner. Again, the human resource function of the MSME, we have to put this into perspective as well, determining the criteria to select people that will have to come and work for you. You can also hire within the ecosystem, within the professional groups, within the associations, of various human resource associations. There are various accountant associations that you can hire from. And I want to tell you from my recent perception and analysis that that is one of the best way to hire, because hiring by reference and referencing from the point of someone you trust can make you get a good hire. That is the truth. It can reduce the the stress on you rather. You can also hire through social media. We've seen people being hired through social media, talent being attracted to organization. And again, if you find talent in another organization, you can poach that talent to come and work for you. If you read Cola War, I've been following Cola War for about 15 years now, reading what is happening between Pepsi Cola and Coca-Cola, the war of talent. If you read JetBlue's story with regards to talent, you understand what I'm talking about. Again, you can also hire, people that are fresh from school. There are several graduate academy out there where you can have people who are not just being trained theoretically within the four walls of university, but people who have been brought forward to also go through some learnings to improve their perception about workplace. And again, how and when do you need to build your team? For MSMEs, it's quite very interesting that the team that work with you are very, very important. I have a case study that I want to mention here. I have a company, a very small company, and the turnover has been very big. I've been holding their strategy session for the past 3 or 4 years. And I want to say that they are growing progressively. And this is based on the team that work in that organization. And this was how it all started. During a conversation with the MD, I asked this question. Determine why you want a team. Why do you really want a team? Because we were so overwhelmed with work at a point. And he said, hey, Adeyemi, I need a team to work with me. And I asked him this question, why do you need a team? He said, well, he has this responsibility to lay on them. And he wants them to drive the business. He wants the business to run without him. Now, he had genuine concern. But again, these concerns were stated, but at times they were different from what was actually being expected. What I mean was, at times, if you're running a team, it is not just about the responsibility you put on them. It's about looking out for the quality of the person that will handle those responsibilities. For the small and for the MSMEs, I would say, if you want to succeed in your business, you need the right team to work with you. But you must determine why you need those things. You must determine the role each person is going to play. And you must determine the qualities you're looking for in your team. In this organization I was referring to, I would say they had excellent team. The man took time to choose the best people to work with him. And some of the qualities he actually brought in are people that were very resilient, people that they buy into the culture of the organization, the founder's philosophy, and also had the vision that the organization had. So all this here build a virile team that are successful. And again, if you want to build a lasting, you need to build leadership culture. Leadership culture is very important in the sense that you have people that can build themselves leadership-wise. You can also build people within the leadership pipeline so that you have lots of people that can even make the business to run, whether you are there or not. In this organization I'm referring to at the moment, the MD is not even in Nigeria, but the business is going on fine, very, very fine. This is an organization I'm very, very close to. Now, when do you really need to bring your team together as an MSME if you don't have one? You need to set the right organizational structure, for example, before you make your team to go live. The structure will empower your team to work within different structure. And this structure will also be set in order to work cohesively, focusing on organizational objectives. The biggest mistake any MSME can do at this point is to choose the wrong person for the right job. Many times, these are the things that happen. And these are the things that break and destroy MSMEs. I mean, if you choose the wrong person on your team, it can destroy your organization. You start looking out for people who are loyal to the organization, who are ready to commit their time, their resources, people who can see the future of that organization. Those are the kind of people you start looking out for. You start looking out for people who possess the right competence, the right attitude, the right behavior in order to make the organization to succeed. These are very, very important. So as a business owner and entrepreneur, you need to be very circumspect in choosing whoever comes to your team. If you have a bad egg within your team, it can destroy the entire team. So I think we should look back and do assessment of the qualities of people that are in our team. Now, we also have the quality of staff that we need to work with. We need to have people that are very competent, culture fit, people with growth mindset, self-motivated, talented, and resilient. But again, talking about competence, you need to choose people within these four competency areas, people who are technically competent. Technical competence basically deals with the ability, the knowledge, the skill being possessed as a result of experience, as a result of academic background or professional inclination. So you need to look out for those people and you need to bring them on board to work with you. These are the staff that with the right technical competence, they can deliver on the job technically. But again, you have to combine their behavioral competence. You need to look at their communication skill. You need to look at their interpersonal relationship. You need to look at their team spirit. You need to look at several behaviors that you expect from them. People who are very ethical, people who have a moral standard, who have respect for organizational culture. You need to look for all these people in the course of carrying out your interview. If you ask me, I would rather even say you should have criteria set in these four areas when selecting people to work with you. People who are very good technically, who are very good behaviorally, meeting your behavioral standard. An organization should have minimum behavioral standard in place to drive the right organizational culture. Again, business acumen is also very important. People who have understanding of the business, the products, the services being delivered, the clientele they're serving, and how to also serve this clientele, very important. Then people who have belief in the leadership and who are also ready to build their own leadership competencies. These are the qualities you should look out for in a staff that you are hiring. Again, there are usually issues and challenges with MSMEs. Some of these issues and challenges borders on hiring error. Hiring error will be coming from a situation where at the point of recruitment, you will assume that the person you are bringing on board is a very fantastic guy who possesses all you have. But at the point of deliverable, at the point of engagement, then you discover that you were probably wrong with your assumptions, okay? So it's also good to have culture in place and hire people that fit into your culture. Look for those qualities. People that fit into your culture, people who can easily blend into your culture, people who believe in the culture of the organization, and people who have growth mindset. Growth mindset, believing that this organization is going to grow to a certain level. They are committed to both the present and the future states of this organization. Again, it's good to hire people who are self-motivated, who are also talented and resilient, people who are ready to work and achieve a lot, irrespective of the changes in the business environment. They remain focused, they remain so committed to the cause of the organization. These are important people that we should bring in to work in our organization. Now, there is a very big question about character against competence and character with competence at the point of bringing in someone to work with you as an MSME. Which one would you choose? Character or competence? Or character and competence? Definitely we'll all go for character and competence. But again, the question is, which of these two would we prefer? And again, if you ask me that question to choose between character and competence, I will go for character. That is the truth. Because character are what people they've built over time. Okay, competencies are what we've also built over time. But again, if you have someone with the right character, but is thinking, somebody with the right competence, but with a bad character, it can really, really damage the business. Okay. But again, that is my own opinion. But I would like to sample your opinion also in the chat room. I would like to have your opinion in the chat room. Which of these would you prefer, character or competence? So please, I'll need your response in the chat room. Which of these two would you prefer? Somebody with good character, with bad competence, or somebody with fantastic competence but bad character? Which of these would you choose? One thing I will also tell us is, I've seen organizations where, one of the first things they look out for is your character. They will just tell you that character is, competence is like an injection, that they can put the right competence in you, and over time you get better. So if you read the story of JetBlue, I don't know if you've read it, there was this story of this pilot that I read in a case study sometimes ago. This pilot was very, very intelligent guy, very, very sound. This pilot was very good, but he went for an interview at JetBlue airline in the US. He was very rude to the front desk officer, and they got to know him before he got into the interview room. And there and then they told him that he cannot work with them. So he asked the question, and they said that, well, his behavior towards his lack of respect, to be clear, his lack of respect for the front desk officer will not allow them to hire him. That truly is the best pilot in the country or whatever, but they don't want him because they prefer someone with a character that can work in their system, in their environment. So if you're hiring, you need to look out for character. And there are so many ways you can look out for character. There are some tests that people pass, across to test the character of people who are going to work with them. But the best is to have someone with the right character and the right competence to work with you. You achieve quite a lot. But again, there is something so challenging for the MSMEs, and that has to do with the quality of staff against pay. I'm sure you believe, you agree with me that this four situation that we have listed here are the situations that entrepreneur, MSMEs owners, they face from time to time. There are times you need high quality staff, but you don't have money to pay them. The question is, what would you do in that situation? But again, let's look at the matrix. The first is a situation where you have low pay and the staff is of low quality, meaning because you can't pay well, definitely you can't get a very good staff. So you have to make do with what you have to work with. Now, in that case, the problem with many MSME owners is they end up doing the job themselves. That's the truth. They end up doing the work, but they're giving the pay to the staff, because low quality this time around means the staff doesn't have the right competence, the right attitude, the right drive, not talented, not resilient, not ready to give extra to the job. So a lot of MSMEs owner, they suffer this a lot, having not enough money to pay, because even the business environment at times may not even encourage you to even pay stupendiously. That is the truth. Again, the fact that in some cases, not in every cases, you pay so hugely does not mean you are going to retain talent, because the talent mobility has been so volatile in the recent times. Now, we also have a situation where we have low pay and high quality staff. We've seen that happen due to high labor, high rate of unemployment that we have out there now. The high rate of unemployment has led to a situation where people are ready to take pay cuts. People who are very, very competent and high up there, they're ready to take low pay. But the truth, again, for every business owner is you may not be able to retain those people. The moment they see a better opportunity, they leave you. Okay? they leave. And in many cases, small scale business owners are not able to retain them, to keep them, because I mean, they've seen, they know their quality, they've seen higher pay. Definitely they will have to go because they have needs to meet. Now, we also have a situation where by error, MSMEs owners, they hire employees and pay them hugely, only to discover that this employee is a dead horse. I mean, somebody that cannot deliver. And these are the situations where some MSMEs owners, they find themselves, and I mean, they become so, permit me to use the word erratic in taking decision, and it just cuts off that staff because they cannot see return on investment they are having on that staff. So it's easy and quick to take a decision by asking such staff to leave. I know of a situation where a particular staff was hired, he was paid highly, and by the time he came into the system, we just discovered that this guy was not just the right person because the quality of his work, his engagement were very, very low. So these are situations where MSMEs owners find themselves at times. What is most desirable for many is where they have the money to attract high quality staff, that is high pay and high quality. This has a lot to do with the financial capacity and capability of MSMEs. Many do not have this financial muscle to attract high quality staff. But I tell you, there's been a paradigm shift now. People, that's the MSMEs owners are making efforts now to attract those that can grow in the system, achieve those quality, and they reward them very well. So these are the four situations. But again, what do you want the business owners to do? What do you expect the business owners to do? The business owners, basically, in this case, I would rather advise that you hire someone that can come into the system, even if the person is being paid low. By the time you see the potential of that person, I mean, justifiably, you can also raise the person's pay in order to keep that person, which is very important. And that takes us to the next conversation where we ask how to attract, motivate, and retain the best hands. The challenge is one of the biggest challenges being faced by MSMEs is a challenge of attracting, motivating, and retaining the best hands they have. A friend shared a story with me about one of their best hands leaving, and the MD had to beg profusely the guy to stay. And the guy said, no, he cannot stay because he believes he has overstayed his welcome. And again, what was the attraction for him out there? Higher pay, bigger pay. The economy is harsh. The business owner doesn't have enough money to pay him, and the guy chooses to leave. Okay. These are the challenges in recent times as a result of the pandemic being faced by MSME owners, the business owners. But again, how can you attract, motivate, and retain? At times, it may not be compensation that really keeps the best, and it may be the right culture. If you have the right culture in place where people are very confident to work, where people are happy to work, where people see future for themselves, where people can interrelate, where people can have confidence in one another and they're happy to come to work, having that culture in place, so many people will be willing to stay. That is the truth. People will be willing to stay. And how do you develop this culture? You develop this culture in such a way that they are people-oriented and business-focused. So when you have culture that are people-oriented and business-focused, it will go a long way to attract, motivate, and retain your talent. The same thing to structure. Set structure within the organization, wherein if somebody comes into the organization, he sees clearly where or she can be in the next 2, 3, 4 years. And he also sees functionalities being very effective and efficient. There are policies in place, there are processes, there are procedures, there are systems. This will motivate people to really work and get engaged and also be retained in the system. A young man left an organization sometimes in February, and he was just sharing a story with me, I can't remember, 2, 3 months ago. He told me, he said, this is where he's going to retire. And I asked him why. He said the experience is quite different, that he knows where it's going to be in the next 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. So if you set structure in place in line with people's career growth, in line with your own future growth, people can see it. People will be ready to work with you as an MSME. And again, we just talked about compensation. That is in terms of reward, whether financial or non-financial reward. If it's being passed across to people appropriately, in many cases, they will be attracted to the organization, they'll be motivated, and again, they'll be retained. Leadership style is very, very important in attracting and motivating employees to be engaged, to be focused, and be ready to work with MSME for a long time. Recently, we've discovered that there has been serious leadership challenges with MSMEs. Many times, the MSME owners, I'll call in quotes, are micromanagers. I mean, sorry, I'm saying it the way, I've seen it. And in case where the leadership style is the other way, where it's so excellent, you discover that the business is growing. The business I referred to earlier, the leadership style was so fantastic. In fact, if you get into the organization, you will not know the MD. Everybody, they run a very flat, open, transparent culture. And I'll tell you, the business is moving very, very fast. Last year, when people were being laid off and all that, the organization didn't lay off one single person. Instead, they had to even double everybody's salary in the course of the pandemic. That is an excellent leadership drive. So to succeed as an MSME, you need very fantastic leadership system. And people management strategy must also be very clear, wherein you are able to show employees that you really care, not for just the work they do, you also care for their state of mind. There's something we call employment psychology. Employment or job psychology rather is where you show concern for people's state of mind rather than the work they do. And in that case, people will be committed to do more for the organization. We're really constrained by time. But the question I want to ask before I leave is, what should HR practitioners do in all this? We have HR practitioners on this platform also listening to us. It's very, very important for us to note that HR practitioners are very, very important in this conversation, because to attract, to motivate, and to retain the best, and many times the right judgment may not come from the business owners. That's the truth. It will come from the professionals who have the capability, the capacity, who have been trained to identify the right talent, people who are resilient, people who are ready to give the best to the organization. So in this case, many, or if you ask me, my observation, no data at all, just my observation, I discovered that larger number of HR practitioners work with MSMEs. That is the truth. They work with MSMEs, but the challenge is many times they are not given the free hands to do what they are professionally trained to do. There are a lot of interferences with the way they do their work, the way they carry out their work, because many business owners believe they know much more people management than the people managers themselves, the HR practitioners. And we've seen these errors play out in so many cases, and that has led to business destruction, business failures, disgruntled employees, disengaged employees. So what HR practitioners should do first is to assist the business owners, the MSME owners, to even define the right structure in the organization, to also define employee profile. What kind of profile do we need for each role for an employee? And there's need for a lot of conversation and convincing in order to make this MSME owners to have buy-in into several initiatives that HR practitioners can bring forward to build a business case around every concept, every program, every initiative in order to drive the business successfully. I have a very short time, but again, I'll be glad to take questions from here so that we can have our conversation. Thank you very much. Back to you, Shaya.
All right, thank you so much for that insightful and straight to the point conversation. So very quickly, I'd like to take the question and answer. So please, if you have any question, you can drop it in the chat box while our facilitator for the evening attends to it.
Okay, sorry, I have a question earlier by Nkechi Nwokoroku. I don't know, sorry, Nkechi, if I don't know how to pronounce your name, forgive me. Dr. Segun Adaju, thank you for reminding me about consumer price index. Thank you very much for that. Now, Nkechi, how do you determine a staff is interested in your organization? Now, at the point of hiring, okay, it may be very difficult to know, but that's why we have probationary period where you can also focus on the employee to find out the employee's interest in the organization. Now, again, there are some questions you can ask during the interview that can prove to the employee's interest. For example, in your previous organization, can you tell us what you really achieved in that organization? And questions like, if you're even discouraged in your organization, how can you find your way around to make sure that you remain committed and focused? So there's some questions you can ask to even test, the person's interest. Maybe in the previous places they've worked, and that will tell you whether they will be able to demonstrate interest with you also. So Nkechi, I don't know if I'm able to answer your question very well. Samuel Obaseki, on what HR is going to do is really going to be a tough one, culture and power-driven context. Now, Samuel, let me tell you this. I have a lot of burning books in the furnace now. One of it is organizational politics. HR should know how to play organizational politics. Okay, you should know how to play politics in such a way that you can convincingly drive so many initiatives. I mean, if you know how to play it well. Politics people see as a bad thing, but no, politics is a game of number and conviction. So that is the point where I'm coming from. How do we deal with employees with attitude? Ajara Dan Musa. Now, employees with attitude, you need to find out why they have such attitude. At times, organization can make employees have bad attitude, so to say. Now, again, you can have a situation where the employee themselves, they are just insatiable and they have this thinking attitude that they bring up from time to time spuriously against the organization. You still need to dig to the root of why that why that employee has that attitude or some bad attitude. That will tell you how to deal with that employee, because I cannot give you a categorical answer without finding out why that employee has that kind of attitude. Okay. So thought-provoking, thank you. I wish I can get soft copy. I'll send a soft copy to you. Thank you, Jimasis. Okay. Dr. Esther Amoye said, how can MSMEs position themselves as a brand to trust to attract required talent that will pitch in for the long haul? Thank you very much, Dr. Esther Amoye, for this. Now, if I understand your question, how can MSME develop employer brand that will attract the right people for the long haul? Fantastic question. Now, there are information that go around about organization. I will tell you, many times I've seen people who want to get into organization. They ask me questions about this organization, and we do some background checks, and we like, hey, you need to be very careful. Now, brand starts with people. Brand doesn't start with product. Brand starts with people. So you need to build people who have confidence in that organization, who trust that organization. Now, those are the people that will go out and placate that brand to people, and the organization becomes attractive. Again, one of the ways MSMEs can position themselves to have that brand that can be trusted is also to have what we call more like a people face to their people engagement. Now, it's difficult to know that when you're outside the organization, but with findings nowadays, people find out about organization and they know the brand, they know where organization belongs to. So if you ask me, treat your employees right, and also make sure that in treating them right, they are able to see your good intention. By that, you'll be able to build brand. So I believe building employers' brand largely has to do with how you engage and interact with your employees, how you treat them. Okay. it will be helpful to have a few questions to ask to determine character. Maureen Obawaya, to determine character, you can ask scenario-based questions. For example, let me ask you, Maureen, now. If you're in an interview with me, Maureen, I can ask you scenario-based question. And I can ask you that, okay, Maureen, if your child is crying at home and you need to go and attend to that child and you have urgent work to deliver at a workplace, which would you prefer? And how would you convince your manager that you need to go and do your work at home? Or, things like that. We first test your decision-making skill. And in terms of your attitude, your commitment to work, it will also say, okay, if you have 2-3 works to do and you need to deliver at the right time, how do you handle such? Okay, so there's so many scenario-based questions that you can throw at a new hire or someone at interview to really get the character they have. So scenario-based questions many times give you an insight to the person's mindset, and it makes you to reach some reasonable conclusions. Now, Galaxy 830, please, I want to know how best to manage conflict of interest, especially if top management is involved with a subordinate under a manager. That question is not clear to me, how to manage conflict of interest, especially if top management is involved with subordinates under a manager. Sorry, please, can you rephrase that question? It's not clear to me. How do you attract right talents? That's Evidence Adeyemi said, how do you attract the right talents when the chiefs are down, but improvements are, however, imminent? Now, Evidence, many employees now don't want to believe in that imminent improvement. That's the truth. They are the generation of now generation. Okay, but one of the ways to really attract talent at when at your downtime, it's pretty difficult. I must be very honest to you. People want to work where, as much as they are committing their talents, they are also being well rewarded. So, because we've seen situations where people who are so committed to organizations, at some point were even forgotten. They were even being maltreated and being bastardized and thrown out. So that has taught so many people lesson. So when the chiefs are down with an organization, it's very difficult to attract talent. But how do you attract this talent? Well, you rather go for a talent that I will call more like a talent you can build when you bring them into the organization at your own capacity to pay. You can build them, okay? Meaning you can offer them on the job training, you can build them internally. I'll give you a case in point. There was a friend of mine who runs a training organization. He had a training manager. When things were down, the training manager left. So he didn't have money to attract another training manager. So what he did largely was to get a corps, I'll say more like a youth corps. He brought the youth corps in at a relatively cheaper pay, let me put it that in quotes, and he trained that person up, and the person was able to grow in the organization. So that strategy is what I've seen. I don't know if that is satisfactory to you. We have quite a lot of questions. I think we may have to have a platform because of time so that we'll be able to respond to it. We have 36 messages. What happens when you make an error in recruitment? When you thought a candidate was high potential and competent, but ends up not delivering? In Nkechi, it's just simple. Set key performance indicator for that candidate. And if that candidate doesn't meet it, give the candidate time for improvement by designing performance improvement plan, PIP. And if that candidate doesn't meet up to that at that point, I think it's good at that point to say goodbye to that candidate, because many organizations will not accommodate mediocrity. That can happen in Africa. If you go to other countries like in the Middle East and so, immediately they ask the staff to leave and they will give reason for non-performance and they will show evidence. Because before you say someone is not delivering, you should document the non-delivery. Document it. Once you document it, you have evidence with you. Okay. Fire Williams. Thanks for the enlightening presentation. Please, do you know any professional groups for getting associate consultants and business developers? Associate consultants, I don't know yet for consultants, but check on LinkedIn. There is Nigerian consultants on LinkedIn. I don't know for business developers, but I know Nigerian consultants is on LinkedIn, and you can get consultants there, fire. Now, Obaseki said, please, how do we get recorded session? I joined late. Okay, Obaseki, I believe the organizers can make this available to you. How months, Lawal said, how months is period of probation? How many months should period of probation be? It depends on organization, okay? I personally have not seen, even in labor law, where this was being referred to, okay? So organizations have their policies to determine their probation, some 6 months, some 3 months, some 1 year. So you need to be aware of this joining an organization. Okay, Joshua Ogbimi said, excellent presentation. A major challenge is how to get small business owners appreciate the importance of structure in an organization and doing the right thing when it comes to hiring. Many business owners do not understand the importance of job description and need to profile candidates for position. You're absolutely correct, Joshua Ogbimi. Many business owners, they don't set structure. They don't believe in structure. And that is why the business fails along the line. They just, at times I've seen a business owner who will just bring a candidate to HR and tell the HR to give offer letter to the candidates. And that's all. No any communication, nothing. No job description, nothing. And like I said earlier, HR are not been allowed to do their job in many MSMEs. And this is affecting the performance of the MSME. Thank you so much, Joshua Ogbimi. Ido Matthew Bakare said, thank you for the profound conversation. Working as an HR of MSME, what are the practical steps to take to build a great culture to retain better hands? Okay, Ido Bakari. Now, one of the things you can do to build a great culture is first to find out the vision and the mission of the organization. If you find out the vision and the mission of the organization, you also find out the core values. Core values are the minimum behavioral expectations of everyone, every stakeholder in that organization. So if you find out the core values, you can start breaking down the core values. For example, if you say core value, I mean, it's integrity, for example, like we have it everywhere. Part of what should contribute to integrity is trustworthiness, okay? Part of what should contribute to integrity is honesty. So you can break all this down into different components, and this will help you to design a culture where you have the minimum behavioral components and how people should behave. Culture is how people choose to behave and interact in a particular setting. So you can look at the core values to build that. Earlier this year, I had a client where we had looked at their core values and were able to build a very fantastic culture that shapes the way people behave, that shapes the way people conduct business in that organization. So I don't know if I'm able to answer your question. Idowu Bakari. Ajiwale, the presentation is fantastic. Just looking at myself in the slide all through. Each page spoke to me. Thank you so much, Ajiwale. Adeyemi Ajayi. Thank you. Lecture is so simple and straightforward. Thank you very much. Kindly send soft copy. Okay, Maureen, I believe the organizers will send this to you. Fire Williams, may we have your email address? Contact, please. Okay, I'm going to drop that. Thank you. Thank you very much. Quite insightful. Thank you, Edith. Thank you, Dapo Omojola. Thank you, I don't know, CNO. What rules are appropriate to merge with the HR function because it's so common in MSME? Again, that this does not lead to lowered performance. The roles that can be linked to HR in MSME is an admin role. You can have the administration HR, the administrative role and HR being combined together. So you can do that to combine those two roles. But I've seen some, they put legal and all those things. It stretches the HR. That is the truth, okay? Please, can you explain more about culture? How do we build a culture accepting to all? Blossom, Urebu, the truth is culture may not be acceptable to everybody, but culture must be complied with, okay? Culture are what organizations design to determine the disposition, the character, the acceptable way of doing things in an organization. So, like I said, if you have the core values, which talks about the minimum standard of behavior being expected in an organization, that can go a long way to help you build the right culture. I'm looking at my time. I should be going off in the next 2-3 minutes. And please, for every other question, I believe that we would be able to respond to them. If I have a question, we can respond to them. Thank you very much, Maureen Obawaya. Dr. Esther Amoye, thank you. I call it conversation. This is indeed a conversation. I especially wish to appreciate the organizers. Thank you very much. Ogene Kewe, thank you. I believe the organizers will give you the soft copy. Nkechi, again, a small company with a flat structure, not too many reporting lines. How do you carry out career pattern and put in structure like you said? Please, I would be very glad if Sheye or the lady who just spoke to me, you can give me all the questions. I will respond to them because we're really pressed of time now. Please, I will be very glad. Okay. I think there's a WhatsApp group you can join and bring in your question. I'm not part of it yet, but I'll make effort to be there. There are quite a whole number of questions here. I think we can have a session like this again. I don't know. Okay.
All right. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. We'll do a screenshot of all the questions. Then probably during the week, we'll next one of our knowledge sharing sessions will invite you so that you can attend to the questions as well. So that will be done in the community. So
Okay.
yes, sir. So thank you very much, sir. I would like to call Mr. Shea back to close the session for tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Messi. Thank you, Jamie. I mean, it's been a very awesome session, and we're pressed for time. But apart from that, we have one or two other things to do quickly before we leave. So every time I have people come to me and say they have funding problem, they don't know which bank to do business with, banks are not cooperating, this and that, we need financing and a couple of things. So we thought to just, apart from the session we just have now, we feel like every month we can bring in service providers or people who can handle one or two things for us. So today we have a representative of first FCMB who is going to talk to us briefly about what they have to offer MSMEs, and then she'll probably leave our contact and some other things. So let me just call on Fumi Shembore to quickly address us now. She's from FCMB.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Let me know if you can hear me, please. Okay. My name is Fumi Shembore, as I've been introduced. I work with FCMB, that's First City Monument Bank, and I work specifically with SME banking. So we're into the business of supporting small businesses and helping them grow. We have quite a number of products for small businesses, depending on the sector that you play in. We have funding even for women in business. We have what we call She Ventures, that's specifically for women in business. And we have facilities. In fact, for the women in business, there's a particular facility that we run that is interest-free. So we give women in business loans at 0% interest. And we also have facilities that are security-free for small businesses, as in you don't need to bring any collateral. We call that the quick loan. And in a matter of 48 hours, once you have all the necessary documents, we're able to disburse the loans to you. We can give you up to 10 million naira collateral free. So, but the thing about that particular facility is that we look at your business turnover. We expect you to be doing a business that has like regular turnover. Maybe you're paying money on a daily basis if you're into buying and selling, and you have people buy from you and you buy from your suppliers. So we see traction in your account and we see that, oh, you're doing this amount of turnover on an annual basis. So there's a way we will calculate your turnover and use it to determine how much you would qualify for if you are not an existing account holder. So it's not even limited to people that have accounts right now. You can open your account with us today. And if you have an existing account in another bank, you can bring that to us and we will use that to profile you and give you the loans you require. For those that might require maybe larger amounts, then we might begin to talk about collateral. If you're in education business where you have a small school and you need support, also we have facility I will call a school support facility that is also interest-free that we give to schools that help them to augment their working capital. So basically those are there are a few other ones for people that are no longer, we won't call them micro anymore. So that's why I'm just telling you the ones that are for the micro businesses. And since we are pressed for time, I would leave my contact. And if you are interested in any of these facilities, you can get in touch with me and we can discuss further. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so very much, Fumi. So she will leave her contact, and so you can contact her, you can ask her questions. And for those in the community also, we'll share our contact and every other details in the community. Quickly before we go, I just want to share some good news with you. I'm sure some of us already know. In our community, we actually had 3 people that won awards at our last Entrepreneurs Africa Award, and we don't want to take it for granted. So MSME Africa community is a thriving community of people that are doing amazingly well in the entrepreneurial space. I will enjoin everyone to join us. Yeah, I learned that our group is filled up. We have 2 WhatsApp groups. The second field is just filled. And we are, I think we just created a 3rd group. So Messi will probably share the link for the 3rd group. So we have 3 people at the last Entrepreneur Africa Award. We have Chika Roots Nwajoku. She's one of the top 10 startup of the year. She's a member of our community. And we also have so we have Chika, and we have Osato. Osato is from El Gazelle Foods. And then I also won an award for media innovation. That's media innovation because of the work we do in MSME Africa. So what I'm trying to say in essence is that it's a community of people who are actually trying to do better with their businesses. And what we do in the community is try to help each other, provide support, do capacity development and every other thing. And our events basically are the weekly event, which is the knowledge sharing session every week. We have the monthly business growth series, which is just one we are rounding off. And then we have the quarterly MSME dialogue. And of course, we have a couple of other things around there. We share opportunities. We talk about things that could help your business grow and thrive. I wouldn't want to keep us longer here, but I have some things. Okay, so if you want to have access to the recording, we would provide information about that in the group. Yeah, people are saying Telegram, but I don't know. Every people have joined that they went to Telegram, they have to come back. Telegram doesn't seem to be lively, but we'll probably look into that. So at this point, if there are no more questions or comments, I think this is the right time to just end this session. I think thank you to everyone who has been a part of this. Thank you so very much. And I wish us a very lovely weekend. Thank you very much. And bye-bye.